My baby's a sailboat captain at sea. We don't give a damn, we do as we please. My baby's a sailboat captain at sea. My gal is a good one, tells me she's mine. Wish I was better looking, baby, don't mind. My gal is a good one, tells me she's mine. All I ever wanted was to make you happy, give you the truth, anything to make you love me, any more than you do. My baby's a sailboat captain at sea. We don't give a damn, we do as we please. My baby's a sailboat captain at sea. My gal is a good one, tells me she's mine. Wish I was better looking, baby, don't mind. My gal is a good one, tells me she's mine. My baby's a saint just like old George, good with the dagger, skilled with the sword. All bullshit aside, she's all and more. All I ever wanted was to make you happy, spit it all out. Anything to make me love you, yeah, less than I do now. But you were in my head, we were in your bed. When you said, yeah, I'm so fucking sorry for this. Lord knows she goes, she's gone. Say you don't mean that. Lord knows she goes, she's gone. Say you don't mean that. All I ever wanted was to make you happy, give you the truth, anything to make you love me, any more than you do. My baby's a sailboat captain at sea. We don't give a damn, we do as we please. My baby's a sailboat captain at sea.
Welcome. We are back. Another day, another week in the market. Bitcoin, nice little recovery here. Was looking worse earlier in the day, but looks like it bounced a bit. What's up? Who's here in the kick chat? What's up, Max, Danny, Frank, Silent, Papa Strata, Short Fisker? You can do whatever you want. Personally, I'm buying Fisker here, but we will see in the future how that plays out. Appreciate whoever's dropping the hearts there. Hopefully the audio is all good. And yeah, we're back. Took last week off, fresh and ready to talk about the market. Looking quite bearish on the SPY and the Qs right now, so we're going to get into that and really just give some updates. We do have, I believe, a very big day tomorrow. We have FOMC minutes tomorrow, and this is arguably the most important stock in the market right now, and the reason why the market, or at least a large part of the reason as to why the market has gone up so much. Nvidia reporting earnings in general for chips, that's going to be very big, and we are going to see what happens tomorrow. So a lot to prepare for tomorrow. I'm going to make sure all of you are ready to go. You know all of your important levels, all the patterns to look out for, and we'll see what else we can find. So getting started with crypto, Bitcoin is currently testing 52K. We were talking about this wedge. It didn't even look complete, and it just ended up breaking out and absolutely ripping. On the 4 hour, this actually also started from this triangle pattern. Just a beautiful move. I mean, that's technical analysis at its finest. And we pretty much rallied right up to 52K. We've been going sideways ever since. Now, I do have that level charted out from something in the past. And here you can see this 52K level was resistance here and at these two highs as well. So that's level Bitcoin is currently testing, make or break level. Ethereum has been really outperforming for the first time in a while very, very nicely. I mean, just on this leg alone, in the last 2 weeks exactly, it's up about 30% after going up about 50% prior to that. It went up 50%, even more actually, pulled back, and then it just ripped 30% in 2 weeks. So really, really big move for Ethereum. I'm sure there's some altcoins that are looking quite the same. There's not much of a pattern here. I mean, if you really want to extend that supply line, technically you do have 3 touches. You haven't even reached that yet, but you're getting a little bit closer. SOL, Solana, that flag played out a little bit, but it's not really doing much right now. At this point, this might actually be a little bit of a bearish. How would we do this? Could be a little bit of a bearish harmonic, actually a bearish cipher on the daily starting to play out just a little bit here. So that's your crypto update really quickly. Let's look into other markets. 2-year made a nice rally. The 10-year made a nice rally. These are things to take into account when we are talking about the CPI we just recently saw that the market did not like, and when we're also talking about the technicals that don't look so great on especially large cap stocks. So keep this in mind. Let's take a look at the dollar currency index. Kind of going sideways and retesting the 200-day moving average breakout. I mean, at this point, it's pretty much just testing the bottom of that wedge. If we move over, I'm going to actually take a look at the VIX. We don't look at this too much on the streams, but I want to keep in mind this is last Tuesday. 1 week ago, we got this spike up from 13 all the way up till 18. We came pretty much all the way back down, and now we are back above. If we clear everything out for 1 second, let's just make this a different color. If we take another look at this, we are now back above for the second time in the past week, the 200-day simple moving average, and you really have not been above that since last October. What alert just went off? Some alert just went off like right now on my trading view and the market's closed. Oh, wow. Well, this is very ironic because I was just about, if any of you watch the streams every night, you know, I go over crypto, then I go over other markets, and right before we look into the US stock market, I take a quick peek at the Chinese stock market and see how it does, because usually it's opening around the time that I go live. And I just got an alert. It looks like I had an alert set up for this little breakout over here from pretty much that consolidation, and up 1%. Good start. Good start for the Hang Seng Index. And you're starting to see this midterm double bottom play out, but more importantly, this 26-year-old trend line also playing. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? It's almost like for the last 2 weeks on the stream, I guess before last one, I was talking about Chinese stocks. So before we even look into the US stocks, let's see how some of these names look. NEO pretty much broke out of this wedge and has just been going sideways at 5.5. Baidu getting close to testing this wedge breakout here. BILI, nice bounce off the $9 support level. That's also your October 2022 low. Bouncing there. Let's take a look at BABA. Look, BABA was alerted as a swing. It's been going relatively sideways since the breakout. It just needs to get above 77 in my opinion. So we're going to do one more. Let's do Taiwan. This is technically from Taiwan, I guess, but seeing a little bit of a flag here. And we're seeing this pullback in chips in general and semis. So we will look a little bit further into these names. We'll look at all of the chips shortly. But let's talk about the overall market right now and what you should keep an eye on. While I'm doing that, if you have any ticker requests, feel free to drop them in the chat. All right, now looking here at the QQQ, you can see that we have classic bearish divergence on the MACD confirmed and playing out. I wouldn't really think too much about this hidden bullish divergence until you started seeing like the pinker bars on the MACD instead of the dark red. You've got classic bearish divergence on both your MACD and RSI. We got a bearish engulfing candle on Friday, and this is what I talked about. I think I talked about this on the weekly premium call on Sunday, that we pretty much gapped down and we rallied up to fill that gap. And right when we filled that gap, we created another large sell-off. And now we're seeing follow through price action today. And I mean, technically you closed right at this trend line, the one that I have drawn, but you're hanging on by a thread. If we go take a look at lower time frames, the 4-hour classic bearish divergence I was mentioning about a week ago is now playing out. If we go over to the 1-hour time frame, you can see that rising wedge broke down, and you are consistently testing this level, which is 425.25. You can see these two lows from the beginning of the month, another low from exactly a week ago when we had that gap down. Then we went up to fill that gap, as you can see over here, right at this level. And now we came back down again to this level. And surprisingly, we actually ended up having a decent afternoon rally and we closed above it. you really broke it. I mean, this was looking pretty rough. Like if we just talk about technicals right here, this is your line, right? You break it on a bearish engulfing candle, then on the next candle, you retest it as a resistance. It was looking like it was a breakdown really taking place, and then you just kind of got back above the level. So you're hanging on by a thread for now, right now on the Qs. I would say the level, I'm still bearish on the Qs, however, is under that 435 level. You can see it was the gap fill that you got a pretty decent rejection off of. So QQQ still bearish to me under 435. Let's go all the way up and over into the weekly, and you can now see that classic bearish divergence is starting to develop on the weekly. I don't know the last time you saw, I think probably this was the last time you saw a classic bearish divergence, and it led to about, on a weekly time frame, a standard correction, all right, about 10%. And maybe that's what we're going to be seeing here off the top. We're only down 3%. If we were to go another 7%, it would take you down to pretty much this low from January of this year. All right, so think about it. If we were just to simply retrace what we've done so far in the year 2024, just to kind of retest where we started off the year at, you would be able to say that the Qs had a correction, minus 10% from the top. So that's the Qs on the weekly. The SPY on the weekly doesn't look as bad. There is no classic bearish divergence. There is not really a bearish candlestick. It's kind of just like the same exact trend. I mean, maybe you could argue that's a bearish candlestick. Would have to pull out the old Japanese textbook. The brand of this coffee mug is SWEESE, to answer your question, Steve. Same color as the set I have. Yeah, I've got a few different colors there. We will take a look at some of those tickers. All right, so let's talk about the SPY on the daily now. Again, this is a wedge you've been in. You have the amount of touches you need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 touches in this rising wedge. There's not much room left. And if we go over to like a 1 hour time frame, it's looking kind of double toppy. Technically that wouldn't confirm unless you broke the neckline of the double top at 491, which is pretty much the value you make in between the two highs. So 491 is your breakdown level, the official double top breakdown level for the SPY. And then after that, I would say your next big support. You have a small support at 489, but your next big one is right around 483. So if this double top fully plays out, I think a move down to 483. It's only another 3% lower on the SPY is possible. Keep that in mind if NVIDIA doesn't do well on earnings. If these Fed minutes are a little bit of a surprise in the negative way, a 3% decline quick is possible. I don't think it should get much worse than that unless we have additional news come out, because the key thing about that level, which we did bounce off of twice, is on the daily time frame. It's relatively close to what I actually want the market to do, especially if we sell off here. It's pretty much this darker orange line you see over here, 480 previous all-time highs. So again, if we do get that 3% pullback, we break down from this wedge, minus 3%, you're simply retesting your previous all-time highs on the S&P 500. I mean, look, if we do like the longer term Fibonacci here, your 0.236, your first fib level wouldn't even be until 466. If you want to do more short-term fibs here, then let's pretty much go from this low up till here. Boom. Take a look at that. What also lines up at that 480 level, which would be a back test of previous all-time highs, the 0.236, all right, of this current rally. Not the overall rally, unfortunately. We would have to suffer a lot more to hit that first level, but at least the rally that we've seen after that sell-off we saw last. So we had that sell-off last fall. We got this rally, kind of the Santa Claus rally, that was just very extended and crazy. If we were to retrace the rally we've seen since pretty much Halloween, just to our first fib level, that would also be a back test of all-time highs, and it would line up with the support on the 1 hour. That is the technical area I think the SPY might not go to, but I think it could. And if it does, that's not the end of the world. So rather than continuing up here, trying so hard not to sneeze right now, it's just a stream curse. Rather than continuing up within this wedge, I would rather the SPY go back down to 480, retest that level, and bounce off of it. Moving on to the Russell 2000. This one's tough. This one is very, very, very tough. This has got to be, and I really have empathy for IWM. For people, there are people out there that only trade IWM, and I mean, if you know how to day trade it correctly, great for you. There's people out there that like swing trade and stuff, and like it has been a rough, not just winter, but couple of winters here. I mean, this has really just been stuck here for coming up on 2 years now. I mean, the Russell 2000 small caps, they were very, very fun to start off I guess this is the third decade of the century. Am I saying that? Yeah, the first decade's the 00s and the 10s and okay. But start off this decade, they were very good. And somewhere along the lines after the bull market of 2021, small caps just really disconnected and we've gone sideways. If we go back in time, let's go on like a monthly chart, because now we can see this consolidation. The only other time I see this consolidation, like even something close to this on the Russell 2000, is it's much smaller. And then you did have the COVID crash, so it just kind of becomes an outlier. This is not really a good sample to use for anything, but if you take a look at it, like that's the last time you had like a decent consolidation, and that lasted basically about 6-7 months. This has lasted 2 years. All right, so quite some time. This is a very, very interesting time for the stock market, where stocks with small market caps are just doing nothing despite whatever's happened in the overall market. And I think that really goes to show that it's like we're freezing here a bit. Are we back? And back? I don't know. All right, I think it's better now. But yeah, this just really goes to show how a lot of money is just going into names that can capitalize off of tech and chips and AI and the internet, and not necessarily some of these smaller companies that are in retail or whatever other industries, or even speculative ones. So speaking of small caps and speculative industries and not really performing as good as the overall market, Fisker minus 13% today. I did put out a post on X last week, and we were above this support we've been consolidating at 70-ish cents. And I said that pretty much throughout this consolidation, what I've been doing is just rebalancing and selling in some areas, buying in other areas, in multiple different accounts, to pretty much move it over into 1 to 2 accounts. And like literally going into this week, or at the end of last week, I sold like a full position in one of my accounts on Fisker in this area, so I could come and rebuy it in another account. And I still have that money in cash, and I'm going to buy this dip that we saw today with the money I sold like 15% higher just 3-4 days ago. So I still do have other positions that did see this minus 13% decline today, but yeah, the money I took out of Fisker last week, I'm putting it back in at these lower prices, about 15% lower now. And I'm pretty much done adding to it. I mean, if it goes down to 30 cents in 6 months, maybe I add a little bit more there, but I've pretty much added what I wanted to add between $1 and 63 cents. So I've really averaged into that area primarily. All of my averages now are going to be under $1, and we will see. I hope this becomes, I'm not saying it's going to be a $40 stock, but even a $4 or $5 stock within a year to two, and that would be fun. So we will see. There's really nothing technical to talk about. That was a major support. I think on a technical standpoint, you cannot even talk about this stock until it gets back above 73 cents. So I'm just hoping from an investment standpoint, it does do that, and then we can start talking about the technicals again. But yeah, it's just crazy what's been happening. I did see, it's literally on the TradingView news, the Marquez Brownlee video. I didn't watch it, but I got the lump to give me some quick summaries of what was in the video. Most of it seems like, from what I basically said, and I think he agreed, was you shouldn't be putting out a finished product with these errors, but these were primarily fixable errors, and most people who have seen the car in person or actually test driven the car have enjoyed it. So hopefully they can just get things together. Hopefully these dealership stuff start working out, and we'll see how the earnings go in 2 days. All right, so let's talk about chips now. AMD, this was one of my only losses in the last week, actually. At AMD calls coming into today, I was hoping that this triangle breakout would play out. I cut it pretty much right around the open today, thankfully, even though it was still a decent loss. And then I went on to win 3-day trades, so I made back what I lost in the AMD position literally the day I had to stop out of it. But it wasn't able to confirm the breakout. I mean, most likely this is just, if the market would have kept ripping, if SMCI would have kept ripping, that this triangle probably would have played out beautifully. To be fair, it's still back like above the demand line. It hasn't broken down yet. It's just kind of back in the triangle, but the breakout itself did not play out. At this point, I would pretty much just kind of look at it as a new triangle. If we move over into NVIDIA, technically broke down. It did go down after hours, so it's a little bit lower as well. Earnings are tomorrow, so really there's no point of talking about technicals. This is a coin flip. I think there's a good scenario where people can argue that any good news is already priced in with what happened in the last 2 months since this last earnings. And then on the other hand, you never know. It's one of the largest stocks in the world. They've performed well consistently since inception, pretty much, I believe, for a reason. And maybe it is justified why the price has gone up, and maybe they have more to unveil. There's no point in me trying to be right on a 50-50 chance. I have no clue what's going to happen to NVIDIA after earnings. I will be very excited to watch it. I was actually saying earlier today that I would think it would be the most entertaining thing if nothing happened. And I'm sorry to everybody gambling on the earnings and that all the calls and the puts just got crushed on IV. I think that would just be hilarious. I'm not hoping anybody to lose money, but it would just be funny. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people betting a lot of money in calls and puts for the earnings tomorrow. I'm just excited to see what happens after it's all said and done, and then take it from there. All right, I was actually reading a report today, the post-earnings announcement drift effect, where basically most stocks actually make their bigger moves after the earnings are announced, and you don't necessarily need to try to gamble the actual 4 p.m. EST market close earnings release. You can wait, and yes, you might miss out on a few percent, but you know, usually they tend to trend in the same direction. Not all the time, but a decent amount of the time. We haven't looked at SMCI too much on the streams. Yeah, I don't really know what to say here. This was a major bearish engulfing candle. And today you sold off even further. You did see an end of day rally, it seems like, to recover a decent amount of it. I think using fibs is probably the simplest thing to do here, since there's not really any real levels. And it seems like you went down to almost your 50% retrace and bounced. I would like to see this continue to drop and see a 618 golden retrace, and then we'll see what happens from there. But until it gets down to a 618 retrace, the thing is, most of those names that go up like this and they have a blow off the top type of sell-off, they tend to at least get back down to their 618. It's very rare you see a name like this have a blow off the top and then only make it 236. A 618 is kind of what you want to see, a good value retrace. So that we're talking around 500 then, yeah, which is pretty much cutting the stock in half from its all-time highs, or actually even more than that. So in time, of course, we can go get a double top in first and then sell off or something. I think it's going to be very hard to break that 1100 without some good news. But again, this is something I've kind of looked the other way from, unfortunately. I charted it here. We were talking about it looked bullish. And then since like this first day where it broke out, I just kind of like, I was like, okay, I'm not going to chase it. And it just kept going and going. So I definitely missed out a little bit there. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of people chase these stocks and they don't understand that, like, yeah, oh my gosh, you really wanted to chase a stock that doubled in 2 months. If you learn how to trade options, you can get the same types of gains every single day with very small moves. So everything just becomes relative. Everything when it comes to trading, and that's what's really helped me not FOMO into things, it becomes relative to your position sizing and your risk tolerance, right? You could put only $500 in a name like this and watch the stock double and think, you know, you did a great job, but then you could put $1,000 into some options and make $2,000. And it's not always that simple. You could also lose to 2K, but there's always different ways to make money in the market. Don't feel like you're forced into the same thing everybody else is doing. And that sounds like the boring thing to say. And I know a lot of you made a lot of money on SMCI, and I did not, unfortunately. But like, these are the types of stocks that most people only see or only come across at the perfect time, one time. Happened to a lot of people on AMC and GameStop. It happened to a lot of people here. I think the biggest moral of the story is just always locking your profits. And you don't also have to lock in your profits at one point. You can scale out your profits, all right? Very, very big misconception for beginner traders is that you have to sell everything at one time. You do not, all right? So to finish up the talk on chip stocks, MU, I've been liking the chart. It's just the same thing with AMD. With the other names in the similar sector, it's tough. You no longer have hidden bullish divergence. You would have went up a little bit more. You could have had a tweezer bottom candlestick pattern, but you didn't. What you are doing, however, is testing this level. It's not a huge level, but you have a few lows over here from the end of last year and the beginning of this year. Technically, you still have a bull flag. This, I think the low you put in today needs to hold for my bullish bias to remain on MU. That's probably the simplest way I would put it. The swings did very, very well last week, especially in the beginning of the week before the market sell-off. We had this whole entire bunch of swings hit targets. Coin was a big one, and then beyond Tesla and BABA, we already talked about BABA. But just to quickly go over the swings, Coin hit all 3 targets and then pulled back. If we take a look at Tesla, this one's actually, it almost hit the first target. It was like literally 1% away. It was up 11%, and then it's been pulling back with the market. Holding above 181 is just simply the key here. See Zeke in the chat. I know that 15-minute zone, it kind of went under like the real, I know I have this zone down here. Ignore that. Let's actually just move that up here to make things simpler. This is what the real zone is like, and it seems like broke under it, but then it went back to retest it tomorrow. So I would say whichever way this breaks is probably going to be telling. And then beyond actually had a good day today. Thank you. Up 2%. Swing is up 13%. It's looking good so far. So pretty simple there. Microsoft flat today. Google flat today, but tested that demand line. Amazon, I mean, there could be a little bit of a flag setting up here, but you have that gap fill at 159. I think in time that will fill. Jeff Bezos has been selling a lot of Amazon. I just saw that. I also think I saw something about Elon Musk buying up Tesla. I'm not sure if that's true. Somebody confirm that for me. Let me know in the Discord. Take a look at the chat now. I will look through some of these tickers. Did you see the YouTube review on the Fisker Ocean? I did not watch the video. I just literally let the lump give me a summary of the video. And like I said, I think that they should have not released a finished product with the issues that were summarized to me, but it doesn't seem like anything is unfixable. And yeah, this is one of the things I think, yeah, it's going to hurt for a couple of weeks, but this will pass. People forget things like that, and Fisker will not forget it, and they'll probably implement the changes they need to. But the thing with this is I think everything Fisker is dealing with is recoverable, but they need to have the finance and the capital to recover. And that's the thing about when this happens to companies. It's like you have to start losing money in terms of market cap, which is out of your control to a certain extent. Of course, yes, they're losing, their stock price is dropping because of their own decisions and their own performance in terms of management. And sometimes you just don't know how things play out until years down the line. This is one of those scenarios where we've seen so many companies come and go like this, but then we've seen companies really get beaten down like this. Like literally the chart we're looking at right now, Amazon back in the day, I believe almost went bankrupt before becoming such a great company. Apple did the same thing. I'm not saying Fisker's the next one of either, but sometimes you got, even in life, you got to go down to come up. All right. Nvidia sell-off into earnings equals sending it flying higher. We will see. I think it's just a 50-50. And let's take a look at some of these names now. JetBlue. Looks like it gapped up on earnings. The key level is just staying above 626. Your next major resistance is 935. Not much I can do on that chart. Under Armour. I think if it holds above this zone, like which is $6 to $7, looks okay. A very important zone to hold. And technically it's back testing a break above the 200-day moving average. DPZ on the 4-hour and the weekly. So on the 4-hour chart, this is your big retest, 414. You pretty much had like a scuffed inverse head and shoulders, or even just a range breakout. And now you're back testing it. If you look at it on the weekly, staying above 413 is key. That's pretty much a right angle descending Brownian wedge. This is a stock that broke out. DPZ, Domino's Pizza. Wow. F in the chat for Papa John's and Pizza Hut. But yeah, Domino's Pizza breakout, and it's back testing. We'll see if it can hold the back test. And then Ocean, the US dollar. There we go. Very, very good move. This is basically your, like if we're looking at this as a range, it'll probably look better on the daily. This was basically your partial decline, and then you had the 70% chance of a breakout here, and that's playing out. So it's in price discovery mode. right? The submarine is floating up and it's trying to see if it can get above sea level. We'll see if the submarine in the ocean can do so. Any other tick requests, let me know in the chat. Let's do a quick game plan. Let's get out the chalkboard heading into tomorrow. Let's move over to the SPY. All right. And futures are currently, let's see, down a little bit on the NASDAQ, relatively flat though. All right. It seems like we did sell off a little bit after hours. These are the 15-minute levels I have for the SPY. 496 is pretty important. You might open somewhere around that level. And you can see this high here from February 2nd. Pretty much when you gapped down, you rejected that level again exactly a week ago. And then roughly, I mean, realistically, like probably on the 5-minute somewhere clear level, we've been bouncing at around 494. So this is like a weird zone we have here. Actually, let's put that back. On the 15-minute, this is like this weird zone you have here on the SPY, where it's a very particular zone. You are finding resistance on this zone up here at 496, and you're finding support on this zone at around 494. All right, and the reason I'm saying it's weird is because you're not really directly flipping this part of the zone into any sort of support. I mean, I guess you did it one time right here, which was literally today in the morning, but then that broke. So I think the easy way to view SPY right now is you want it to hold above this zone. If it can do it for long enough, your upside levels to look out for. First off, the gap fill from today's gap down at 499, and then obviously the retest of our current all-time highs around 503. Those are your two upside levels, 499 and 503 if you remain above this white zone. If you break down from this white zone, like I said, I think the 490-ish test comes into play, and longer term 480 retests of previous all-time highs and 0.236 fib from our lows last fall to our current highs. But keep in mind, have the daily bias. You know, it's like an ICT term and whatever, but like just in general, like you see what's happening on the lower time frames, right? There is that 50-50 chance, right? You technically are back above this important zone, but the bias on the larger time frames is bearish. Okay, so that means that you have a bearish bias on the daily, and it's kind of like a 50-50 chart on the 15-minute. It's more like a 55 to the bear side, 45 to the bull side. There's that slight weighted coin flip for the bears because they have the bias on larger time frames. The MACD is red. But again, like I said, with the minutes tomorrow and NVIDIA after the close, we have to just wait and see. I will update you as well as I can. If you look at that Tesla inverse head and shoulders retest, it held the 0.5 from recent lows to highs. I think you're going to be talking about this low. Or maybe you're talking about the overall low. Yes, you're talking about the overall low. So yeah, it did pretty much make a 50% retrace. Look, if Tesla can just re-break out of 194, then great. It still didn't fill that gap. I mean, it's very clear. If Tesla breaks out of 194 again, if you also have the market aligning with that forecast, the market starts moving higher as well, your next two levels, I mean, technically there's a little one from this gap down today. Your next three levels, 199, 203, 207. Very clear levels, like not financial advice, but this is how I would look at this. Pretty much like that. That's how I'd look at it. Stop loss pretty much under your low today. First level, second level, third level. That's really how I would see this in terms of like being an equitable trade. I like the higher low, but I think it also needs more of a pattern at the same time. So Tesla, I want to see DraftKings after the Super Bowl. Maybe it was buy the run up until the Super Bowl and sell after. I don't know. The chart does look not great right now. You pretty much rejected this major high you put in June of 2020. Honestly, pretty much including the gap down, it was like a bearish engulfing candle. I mean, this is like your mini support. We can go even lower. You have, since you broke above this level of 41 on February 2nd. Wasn't 41 a big level? I can't remember. I remember talking about 41 on DraftKings for some reason. I don't know. But yeah, as soon as you broke above 41, you've been able to hold it for pretty much the whole entire month. Now you're retesting it. If that breaks, your next level is going to be down at 39. And you do have a gap fill as well at 35.48. You have classic bearish divergence on the MACD, confirmed today, and apparently earnings took place last Thursday. So we'll see what happens there. Let's take a look at FanDuel now. FanDuel back testing the cup and handle breakout. Hanging on by a thread. And ooh, not great for Penn. Not sure what happened with those earnings, but it was a wedge setting up, and then the earnings just went literally from breaking out of the wedge to breaking under the wedge. Also took out the lows from last October. I mean, your next level is like $12 on Penn right now. So that is Penn. All right. Thank you all for watching the stream. It's going to be it for tonight. Feels good to be live. Appreciate all the support. Hit the like button if you didn't hit the subscribe button. If you want to join the premium group, nice alert on IWM puts today, actually. I alerted IWM puts right over there because of the bear flag. And this was pretty much how they played out. If you want to join that, the link is pinned in the chat, walk.com/championvibe. Have a great night. Good luck trading tomorrow. Keep in mind Fed minutes as well as NVIDIA earnings and all the levels I talked about. I hope this stream helped prepare you for the market tomorrow, and I will see you on the next one.